Today is December 14th, 2016. My name is Joe Todd. This is an interview with Tim Stringer in Dewey, Oklahoma. Sir, where were you born?
Fort Hood, Texas.
Fort Hood, Texas. And when's your birthday?
January 8th of 1954.
Who's your father? What's your father's name?
Tommy Stringer.
And your mother?
And he spelled his first name Tommie.
I-E.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
My mother was Lois, Lois Stringer.
What was her maiden name?
Stevens.
Stevens.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go through school in Killeen?
No, sir. I was an Army brat. Went to school all over the world. And then after my dad got out of the Army, he was a pipeliner, so we continued to travel. Eventually settled in Houston, in the Houston area. I went to high school in Fort Bend County, Sugar Land.
And you graduated what year?
Well, I quit school in 1971 and joined the Army.
Okay. You went to what high school?
Dulles High School in Sugar Land, Texas.
Okay. And why did you join the Army over the Navy or the Marines or Air Force?
My dad was a soldier, and I just followed in his footsteps.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you go for basic training?
Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Fort Polk. Now, did you join the Army in Sugar Land?
In Houston.
In Houston.
Yes, sir.
You went to Fort Polk by a bus?
By bus.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about basic.
I was 17 years old, 17 years and 1 week old, and rode the bus from Houston to Fort Polk on January 15th of 1971.
You're talking about basic.
Mm-hmm. Arrived at Fort Polk January 15th, 1971, and as we pulled on to the post, there was at the gate, there was a wooden archway over the gate that said, "Welcome to Fort Polk, Louisiana, home of the infantry soldier, Vietnam bound." And you could have heard a pin drop on that bus. I was one of the few people that had actually enlisted. Most of the guys I was with were draftees. Mm-hmm. And was in Alpha Company, 3rd Battalion, 1st Basic Combat Training Brigade in South Fort. And that's where I took my basic training.
What type of training did you have in basic?
Just basic combat training. We learned how to shoot and march, and they broke us down and built us back up as a team.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your drill sergeants.
My drill sergeants, the one I remember was Drill Sergeant Colquitt, Colquitt. Served several tours as an infantryman in Vietnam, and I remember him with a great degree of affection. Now, I could not say that in 1971, but I learned a lot from that man.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about bivouac.
Fort Polk, it was quite interesting. When I first got there, since it was January, we had a lot of blue northers blow in. It was very cold and wet, and that's what I remember most.
What's the terrain around Fort Polk? Is it swampy or is it?
It's piney woods, for the most part, sandy. There is some swamp area there.
What's your most vivid memory of basic?
Getting in trouble. I spent a lot of nights on extra duty in the mess hall. But that's my most.
What'd you do, or should I ask?
I made the mistake of we had to push a first aid wagon behind the column of troops when we were marching to and from our classes, and the classes we were taking at the time where they were introducing us to the M16A1. We were the first basic training class to go through with the M16A1 at that time, and I was also supposed to be a server in the mess hall, and the mess sergeant had given us strict instructions that we were never to be late. And so we got back to the company area, and I was going to be late, so I made the mistake of giving my rifle to another soldier and asking him to turn it in at the arms room for me. And I quickly learned that that was a big no-go, and suffered the consequences of that poor decision. And spent, out of the 8 weeks of basic training, I think I spent 6 of them every night in the mess hall after that.
What did you do on bivouac?
We did our forced march, which was, I believe, either 15 or 20 miles, and then set up in a nighttime defensive perimeter. Most of the training, or all the training back then, was Vietnam oriented, and that's, best of my knowledge, that's what I remember doing.
Did they talk about Vietnam in basic training?
All the time.
What did they say about Vietnam?
Basically that that's where most of us were going to go, and so they were going to train us to survive.
What were you thinking about going to Vietnam?
I was 17 years old and dumb, and was kind of, I guess, excited, that might be where I would go.
Basic class at how long?
8 weeks.
8 weeks.
And then you had 8 weeks of AIT.
Where did you take your AIT?
In North Fort Polk, Louisiana. I was an infantryman.
And how did basic training compare to AIT?
AIT was not as strict as basic training. We still had drill sergeants, but it was more focused on Vietnam and infantry tactics for Vietnam. North Fort Polk at the time was called Tigerland, and it was laser focused on Vietnam. You had mock Vietnamese villages up there. They trained you in counterinsurgency operations, what they call now counterinsurgency. It was you spent a lot of time out in the field. You spent a lot of time learning small unit tactics, patrolling, that sort of thing.
How long did AIT last?
Another 8 weeks.
Another 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
What's your most vivid memory of AIT?
Going through what they called at the time the final FTX was called Peason Ridge, and that's spelled Peason. And it was a week of basically going out and performing as you would be expected to perform in Vietnam. They had you on a perimeter, what would be considered a fire base, and then you would go out and patrol and do they'd teach you how to cordon off a village and then go in and search villages, and how to watch out for booby traps and respond to snipers, how to perform during, say, a convoy. I remember they would load deuce and a halfs up, and you had sandbags on the bed of the deuce and a half, and you would lay on top of those sandbags facing outward, just as I suppose you would do in Vietnam.
Now, FTX is an acronym for what?
Field training exercise.
Okay. So after AIT, where'd you go?
Jump school, Fort Benning, Georgia.
Tell me about jump school.
4 weeks of running in July in Georgia. We lived in the original parachute test platoon barracks down by the airstrip, and we would double time in the morning from the barracks area to the airborne training area, and then double time back from the airborne training area to the mess hall for lunch, double time back after lunch to the airborne training area, and then double time in the evening back to the barracks area. So we were running, I would guess, better than 10 miles a day. Like I said, in July in Georgia, which is an experience.
What type of training did you have to prepare for a jump?
3 weeks. Basically, it's 4 weeks. You had a 0 week, and they went over everything from paratroop landing falls to swing landing trainer to jumping out of the 34-foot towers, and then the 200-foot towers where they'd haul you up in an open chute and teach you how to maneuver the chutes and that sort of thing.
Had you flown before? Had you flown before?
As a child, going from duty station to duty station with my dad.
Okay.
But I'd never, hadn't for many years prior to that.
Okay. What type of airplane did you?
The C-130s.
C-130. Is that what you jumped out of?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me about your first jump.
It was a night jump. Had my eyes closed. It all went by quickly. We had drilled so much on what we were supposed to do. It just came like second nature. Once it was time to do it, you just lined up and jumped out the door.
What were you thinking, jumping out of an airplane?
It didn't really stop to think about it. And again, I was 17 years old and immortal. So.
So how many jumps did you make in jump school?
5.
5.
Mm-hmm.
Anything happen on those 5 jumps?
Nothing really remarkable.
Okay.
Just jumping from a perfectly good airplane.
Then you got your jump wings.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You had a ceremony to get your wings?
Yes, sir.
What happened? Tell me about the ceremony.
We got blood wings, and they pin them on your uniform and then slam it in with the heel of their palm.
They still do that?
I don't know if they do or not.
Okay. So after jump school, where'd you go?
Fort Wainwright, Alaska. And I spent 18 months up there with, they had a battalion-sized infantry task force. You had one company of Air Mobile, one company of Straight Leg, and then one company of Airborne. And so I was up there for a little over a year before I re-enlisted for the military police.
Now, where's Fort Wainwright located?
That's outside of Fairbanks,
Okay.
in central Alaska.
Okay. Did you think you were going to Vietnam?
Until I got my orders for Alaska, I thought I was going to Vietnam. Out of my AIT company, there was only 4 of us that did not go to Vietnam.
Any reason why you did not go to Vietnam?
I don't know. It was luck of the draw. They sent me to Alaska instead.
Now, why were you in Alaska? Why were you in Alaska?
That's where the Army sent me.
Okay. What unit were you assigned to up there?
4th Battalion, 9th Infantry Regiment, Charlie Company.
Okay. 9th Infantry Regiment. Was there a division up there?
It's 172nd Arctic Light Infantry Brigade.
Okay. So, what's your most vivid memory of Alaska?
The mountains, I was primarily from the flatlands of Texas. I'd never really seen mountains before. It's a beautiful country. I'd never been exposed to a lot of snow before. I got up there in August of 1971, and we got our first snow in September. And I remember tunneling out the barracks doors. By the end of the winter, you had snow drifted up over the barracks doors, and you had to dig, keep the sidewalks clear, and the snow would be drifted up over your head coming out the barracks.
Now, what did you do in Alaska? What was your job?
I was an infantryman.
Infantryman. So, what did you do? You go on patrol, or what? What did you
We
do?
would train, take us out on maneuvers. We spent a week in December of 1971. We spent a week in a place called Unalakleet, Alaska, which is on the Bering Strait. It's on the coast, and we spent a week up there, just conducting simulated combat operations in an Arctic environment. We made jumps up there, both in the summer and winter time. It was quite cold, but you got used to it, and you learned if you kept moving, you stayed warm.
And you were in Alaska how long?
18 months.
18 months. Then you re-enlisted.
I re-enlisted for the military police, and from Alaska I went to Fort Hood, Texas, to the 502nd MP Company.
Now, did you have to go through MP training?
We went through a localized school up there. They had a shortage of MPs at the time.
The 502nd MP Company?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
2nd Armored Division, Fort Hood, Texas.
2nd Armored Division. What did you do at Fort Hood?
I was an MP. It was a divisional MP company, so we, whenever the division had a field exercise, we went out with them. We would also pull patrol on Fort Hood around the division area. That sort of thing, just law enforcement duties for the most part.
Had any trouble with the people in Killeen?
Killeen at that time was a pretty, in my experience, was a pretty wild city. When I first got to the bus station, when I first arrived at Fort Hood and got to the bus station in downtown Killeen, I was propositioned 3 or 4 times by the local prostitutes there on Avenue D.
At D Street.
Mm-hmm. So that was a new experience for me. And then at that time, the first Cav hadn't been back from Vietnam too long. They occupied one half a post while the 2nd Armored occupied the other half a post. And so we had a lot of activity from the returning Vietnam vets that were coming back. And then there was also during the early 70s, there was a lot of unrest, very similar to what is occurring now nationwide. And as military police, we had to deal with that.
Have any anti-Vietnam?
Yeah, Jane Fonda came down there at one point while I was there, and she caused quite a bit of problems.
What'd she do? What happened?
Just generated a lot of unrest amongst the anti-war folks there at Fort Hood or Killeen area. She ended up being barred from every U.S. military installation in the world. So, again, as MPs, we when she was on post, we had to escort her off post.
How'd you get on post? Is Fort Hood an open post?
At that time, it was not. I don't know. I don't really know how she got on post. I know that she was there, and they told us to make her not there. So
So you actually came in contact with her?
I did not know.
Okay.
No, I was just there as crowd control.
Yeah. Okay. And anything else happen besides Jane Fonda coming down there?
We had some. We had a race riot while I was there, and we ended up having to perform riot control duties while I was there.
How long did that race riot last?
I don't recall. It was several days.
What caused that?
Just stupidity. And there was enough to go around. It wasn't just confined to one race.
And how long were you at Fort Hood?
A little over a year.
Okay.
And then while I was at Fort Hood, took part in Reforger at the time. Was where Reforger exercises was where they would conduct maneuvers that would bring forces from stateside to Germany in an exercise that practiced what we would do if the Russians ever came across the border. And I took part in a Reforger exercise, and while I was on Reforger, I came down on orders for Germany. So when we came back to the States at the end of the exercise, I processed out and went back to Germany.
Where in Germany did you go on Reforger?
It was in the, I know we were in the Black Forest at one point. I don't know, I don't recall the towns we were in.
So you processed and you went back to Germany?
Yeah.
Where were you stationed?
3rd Infantry Division in Kitzingen and Würzburg.
Würzburg?
Mm-hmm. Wurzberg.
Okay.
And then when I first got there, they sent me from the MPs back to the infantry, and I had to fight to get back to the MPs.
Why did they send you to the infantry?
They needed infantry more than they needed MPs at the time, I guess. And I had to eventually go to the IG and prove that my primary MOS was 95B, which was MP. And then once I was able to prove that, they said, well, if you're operating outside your primary MOS, you need to go back to your primary MOS. So then I was assigned to the security platoon of the 3rd Infantry Division, MPs, 3rd MP Company.
What do you do in the security platoon?
We provide security for the divisional headquarters.
Okay.
And we would go out with them on maneuvers, that sort of thing. But then we would also, when we were down, we would also perform law enforcement duties with and I can't remember the name of the garrison MP unit there on the concern where I was stationed. Okay. And we would patrol downtown Würzburg and the local concern there, and work gate duty, that sort of thing.
Okay. What was the reaction of the German people to you?
Generally very friendly. At the time, we were treated better in Germany by the Germans than what we were treated by the Americans back home, because of the anti-war sentiment that was prevalent at the time. And the Germans treated us, for the most part, very well. Christmas time, this time of year, they would bring us all sorts of food, especially if you were working gate duty. They would bring you loaves of fresh baked bread and sweets and all sorts of stuff, like foods like that. I have very fond memories of how the Germans treated us.
Were you in Germany doing Fasching?
Yes.
What did you do at Fasching?
I mainly just gazed in wonderment at what all went on, because the Germans.
That's their Mardi Gras.
That's their Mardi Gras, and the Germans would basically cut loose. They were normally they struck me as being a very reserved people, but they really cut loose during that time.
Were you at Wurzburg during Foster?
Wurzburg,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of, if I remember right, there's a lot of costumes and that sort of thing worn. But yeah.
You get to Berlin while you're in Germany?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
What's your most vivid memory of Germany?
Beer. We would have German American Week where we would invite the locals onto the Kaserne and they'd set up a big beer tent. I also remember working with Polizei, the German police, and American GIs didn't normally like the MPs unless Polizei got there first, and then they really liked it when we got there. 'Cause we treated them better than what Polizei would.
Yeah.
But working joint patrols sometimes with Polizei and seeing how they did things. But I loved Germany. It was the country, the cities where I was at, for the most part, they were very clean, very well organized. And like I said, the German people treated me really well.
Now, had Wurzburg been damaged pretty well in World War II?
They had suffered one or two bombing raids, to the best of my recollection.
Had it all been rebuilt?
It had all been rebuilt.
Okay.
The Germans did not like to. The Germans that I had contact with did not like to discuss World War II. They wanted to put that behind them.
Ever meet any Germans that have been German soldiers World War II?
Yes, I had. We had a gentleman that was our barber there. He was our company barber. He's there in the basement of our barracks. He had a shop, and he had been a young man in the German army during the Second World War, and he had escaped the Russians to turn himself into the Americans.
Yeah.
He never talked very much about it, but there was, he had a wealth of information about that time. And then I met a man when I went through, before I went to Germany, I went through the basic NCO course back at Fort Benning. And one of our instructors there was a sergeant, and he was an anti-armor instructor on how the infantry could fight against tanks. And he had been in the Hitler Youth during the Second World War and had fought the Russians in Berlin before he, was able to escape and turn himself in. And then he joined the U.S. Army, but he knew all about what it was like to fight tanks as a foot soldier.
And you were in Germany how long?
I was in Germany almost 3 years.
3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then where'd you go?
Fort Sam Houston, Texas.
What'd you do there?
MPs.
How long were you at Fort Sam?
From 1976 to 1979.
So what'd you do at Fort Sam and San Antonio?
I was in the 52nd MP Company at Fort Sam Houston, and we did law enforcement for the installation. It was a completely open installation. We were the installation's police force. And basically, that's all it was law enforcement duties. What we called, at the time, what we called white hat duties. We wore white service hats and khakis year round. It was more like being a civilian cop than it was, being in the Army.
Now, how many military bases were at San Antonio at that time?
Fort Sam Houston, Lackland. There was a whole bunch of Air Force bases that pretty much completely surrounded
There's
San
Kelly.
Antonio. Kelly,
They had Brooke Army Hospital.
yeah, Brooke Army was at Fort Sam.
Oh, it was, okay.
Yeah, they had that's where the burn center was. I can't remember all the Air Force bases that surrounded it.
What'd you do during the festival in San Antonio?
We, if I wasn't working, I went down and watched. They had the Battle of Flowers parade that was not too far off post. The last 6 months, 8 months I was there in 1979, I was with the Armed Forces Police Detachment in downtown San Antonio. We worked out of the San Antonio Police Department. And that would have been in 1979, and that year during the Battle of Flowers parade is when they had a sniper incident. And we were working, and myself and several of my companions there helped evacuate people from during that sniper incident.
I was down there.
Yeah.
Because I was working at Fort Hood and went down and, yeah. I used to go, and then after that I went to festivals several years and had a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was one of our guys that there was a bus there that got on that bus and pulled it up, and they were able to evacuate a lot of the people.
Yeah.
And he did that under fire, where he was able to evacuate a lot of the people from down there.
Who was this guy, the sniper? Who was he?
I don't remember right off the top of my head. I know that he was in a Winnebago motorhome, and he began shooting. He shot first couple people who shot were two ladies that were sitting in lawn chairs there directly in front of his Winnebago, and then he shot a couple of police officers that were standing there in the middle of the intersection. And then he began randomly shooting into the crowd. And I know that he was using a shotgun, if my memory serves me correctly. He was using a shotgun and bouncing the shot off the pavement, skipping the shot off the pavement. So a lot of the people that were wounded in the knees and lower legs.
Did you find out why he did this?
He had tried to, and again I'm speaking from memory, so he had tried to turn himself in to a mental hospital a little while before that, and he's mentally unbalanced. They didn't take him, and then he did this.
What were your quarters at Fort Sam?
They're on the post. I can't remember the quarters numbers. It was a barracks there.
Was it part of the old fort, or was it new barracks?
Old fort.
Old fort.
Yeah. It's right on the main part of the post, right down from the post headquarters.
So they have some beautiful old buildings down
Yeah.
at Fort Sam.
Yeah, it's a Spanish style
Yeah.
architecture with breezeways and that sort of thing.
And you were there how long?
I was there almost 3 years.
Okay. Then where'd you go?
I got out. I was discharged in 1979. And then I re-enlisted in 1990.
Okay.
Re-enlisted from here in Bartlesville.
Okay. Now, when did you come to Bartlesville?
Came to Bartlesville, I came to Oklahoma in 82. Met my late wife in Skytook, and then we got married, and then I came to Bartlesville in 86.
Now, what'd you do after? When did you get your discharge? 1979.
Got my first discharge in 1979.
You call what month?
August of 1979.
Okay. What'd you do until you?
I worked private security, and then hired on with the Tulsa Police Department in 1984. And then worked for them for a year and a half. Then hired on with the Bartlesville Police Department in 1986. And Worked with them until 1990 when I re-enlisted in the Army.
Why'd you go back in the Army?
It's a good question. I had more time invested in the Army than I did as a cop back then. And I thought I would finish off my career. And then peace was breaking out everywhere. Berlin Wall had come down. I thought I would finish off my career.
Did you join in Bartlesville?
Joined in Bartlesville. Went back to being an infantryman. And
where were you sent when you joined?
I had to go back through basic, but to Fort Benning, Georgia.
How did that basic compare to your first basic?
There's a little bit of difference. There were some things that were the same. I was older. I was in my 30s. I was older than most of my drill sergeants. The barracks were different. The first time I went in was World War II barracks. And these were modern barracks when I went back in. There was and everybody there was a volunteer in 1990 as opposed to the draftees in 1971. So there's somewhat of a different attitude amongst the soldiers. I saw a different attitude even amongst the NCOs that were there, the non-coms.
Now, 1990, when did you join the Army?
That would have been in March of 1990.
Okay.
And like I said, went back to Fort Benning.
Okay. After basic, where'd you go?
Stayed there at Benning. Had to go back through infantry AIT.
And you were assigned to what unit?
I don't remember, to tell you the truth. Okay. But then, I know the day before we graduated AIT, that would have been in August of 1990. I think it would have been August 8th of 1990. When we were supposed to graduate. It was either August 8th or August 9th, but it was the day before we graduated. It was when Hussein invaded Kuwait.
Yeah. I'd like to ask, how did the drill sergeants treat you being an older man?
They were not easy on me, but they treated me with a little more respect than the guys that had never been.
Because you're prior service.
I was prior service, and I was what they call platoon guide for the majority of my time there, and so they, like I said, they treated me with, I guess, some more, a degree, a little bit more respect than they did the average Joe that was there.
What did you think when you heard that Saddam had invaded Kuwait?
Well, they had a TV that was in our squad bay. Never was on the whole time we were there until that night, and the drill sergeant came in and turned it on and said, "I know where you boys are headed." And they were showing the videos of the Iraqi troops in Kuwait, and he said that we would probably be there before the year was out, and he was right. So I said, well, I missed the first one. I missed Vietnam, but I don't think I'm going to miss this one. So
what unit were you assigned to when you went over?
I was assigned to Headquarters Company, 5th Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment, 1st Infantry Division, Mortar Platoon.
Mortar Platoon. Mm-hmm. Now, were you an infantryman at this time?
I was an infantryman.
Okay. So tell me about packing up and heading overseas.
Well, I left Fort Benning. They assigned me to Fort Riley, Kansas, to the 1st Infantry Division. I got to Fort Riley in September of 1990. We were alerted for deployment around Thanksgiving of 1990. By the first part of December, we had loaded the entire division, vehicles, everything. We'd railheaded, and everything was headed for the coast, and we were ready to go. We were supposed to fly out on December 26th of 1990. We reported to, it was the day after Christmas, we reported to the barracks there. I kissed my wife and daughter goodbye. And a couple hours later, they told us, well, go back home. So had to call them to come pick me up. This happened 3 times.
Now, where were you at this time?
It was at Fort Riley.
Fort Riley, okay.
And then I think we finally flew out on the 27th of December and to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
What did you think getting on the airplane flying out to a combat zone?
Just, listen to my NCOs. Do what I was trained to do.
Was it direct flight?
We flew a civilian airliner. I forget what they call it. When they, there's a government agreement with the different airline companies that during times of national emergency, they devote their aircraft and crews to ferrying the soldiers over. And that it was a civilian airline. I don't recall what company it was, but we flew from. We took a bus from Fort Riley to Topeka. We flew out of Forbes Field in Topeka to LaGuardia Airport in New York, and then from LaGuardia we flew to Rome, Italy, and where they refueled, and then from Rome, Italy we flew to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. And I remember when we were flying over the Mediterranean that we were being escorted by Air Force fighters because we were close to Libya at the time.
Tell me about getting off the airplane in Riyadh. What was your reaction?
It was at nighttime. We had been briefed that if we took incoming fire, that there were slit trenches along the tarmac. They loaded us onto civilian buses there. These buses had 3 doors. There was a front door, a middle door, and then a rear door. The front door and the middle door had the International Do Not Enter sign, the red circle with a diagonal line through it, and then the figure of a woman there. Women were not allowed to enter through the front door and the middle doors. They had to enter through the rear door. And the rear of the bus, which is where I sat, was separated from the rest of the bus by plywood that had vision slits cut in it at about eye level, and the windows were blacked out. And I thought, this is something completely foreign to me, that any country would treat women like that. It was I don't recall my stay in Saudi Arabia or any of my areas I was at over there with any degree of fondness.
Of course, now we had armed Saddam.
Right.
Because during the Iran-Iraq war.
Right.
Because Iran had taken our embassy.
Right.
What'd you think about this, that we had armed Saddam and now we're getting ready to fight him?
It kind of grated on me a little bit. I know at one point after the ground war had started, my platoon cleared a bunker complex. And in clearing this bunker complex, we found a ground search radar that was there on a trailer. It was on a hilltop. And it still had the U.S. Army manuals with it. That they were going to use this ground search radar to direct their artillery against us. and that we had been under this artillery fire. And you're wondering, you know, if what they were using against us was stuff that we had sold them.
So from Riyadh, where'd you go?
We deployed. We were at Khobar Towers initially, and then we deployed to the desert from there.
Dhahran.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we went from went up Pipeline Road there to several different assembly areas before we finally deployed to the area on the border between Saudi Arabia and Iraq.
Did you get to Hafra Batin?
I may have.
That's the
I don't
little
know.
town on Tapline Road, and then we headed north to the Iraqi border from Hafra Batin.
Right. Right. I believe that's. I don't recall. I recall that name, but I don't.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of it's a
So-
blur.
On the Iraqi border, what kind of position did you set up?
We set up our mortar position for our 4-deuce mortars. There was the berm in front of us, and we maintained our two mortar sections there. I know when we were setting up, some guys from the Cav came down, the quarter Cav came down and told us we were under direct observation at that point when we were setting up our positions. And that area, that was the flattest terrain I've ever seen, other than the berm. That was it's as flat as this tabletop. And
Now, were you giving briefings of what was going to happen?
yeah, prior to the ground war beginning, we were told that we were going to be the breach element for the 1st Infantry Division, and that the Iraqis were arrayed in front of us. There was an infantry division arrayed in front of us in trench line type areas, and that initially we were expected to take heavy casualties clearing the trench line.
Had you been told Saddam may use chemicals?
Yes,
What do you think about this?
that frightened us. At one point, it was not long after, I think it was like the day after the air war started, our M8 alarms went off, which M8 alarms were only designed to detect nerve agent. And we went to Mach 4 like that. It was 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, if I recall, when the alarms went off, and we were alerted, and getting our masks and mop gear on at the time, and going to that posture was unnerving, and then having to conduct the unmasking drills, and
It wasn't unmasking drill.
that's where you test the area to see if there's any chemical agent in the area, and then you had one specific individual in the platoon that you would have to sit there and watch him, and he'd break the seal on his mask and then reseal it, and then you'd sit there face to face with him and watch him to see if he started developing any symptoms of nerve agent poisoning. And then I don't recall the exact procedure, but then he would, after doing that, and if he didn't show any symptoms, then he would take his mask off and then put his mask, reseal it, and again you'd have to watch him for a specific amount of time. And when you're sitting there staring face to face with a man and wondering if you're going to start watching him die from being exposed to nerve agent, that really affects you.
Did you know this guy? That you
Yes. He was a PFC in my platoon. And then there wasn't anything present, of course, at the time, but you didn't know that.
When did the ground war start?
That was in late February of 1991.
So tell me what happened when the Grand War started. What happened?
We made our breach through the berm. We got up to where the Iraqis were. General Tom Raim was our division commander. He had decided we would make this attack in full daylight because he wanted the Iraqis to see what was coming. They had the PSYOPs folks that had them out there for a long time with speakers telling the Iraqis, asking the Iraqis to surrender. Some of them did, some of them didn't. And then prior to us making the breach, the entire 7th Corps artillery conducted an artillery prep of the area. And then they gave the order to proceed. They fired the Mikliks, the mine clearing charges across the minefields that blew lanes through the minefields. Then the M1 Abrams with plows plowed the lanes. And they, as the Abrams were approaching the trench lines, they took some fire from Iraqis that were in the trench lines, and they buried the trench lines with Iraqis still in the trenches. I remember the radio traffic that was going out when they first started that, and I remember them saying plows down, and one of the tankers yelling "Yeehaw" over the radio net, and then saying they were taking fire. And then we started taking some incoming artillery as we proceeded through the breach. And then we got to the other side of the Iraqi fortifications, and we set up and we conducted a night passage of lines with the British 1st Armored, I believe was the Desert Rats. And in a combat zone, a night passage of lines is a very intricate, hazardous maneuver. And I remember they passed through, and then it was that next day that we conducted that we were tasked with clearing up an Iraqi bunker complex on this hilltop that overlooked the breach site. Mm-hmm. And we conducted that, and we took several prisoners out of those bunkers. And while we were conducting that, we took some artillery fire, some incoming artillery fire from the Iraqis. And that was the closest I came, to being seriously hurt. The artillery fire that came in was danger close, and close enough to where we suffered from the concussion of the incoming artillery. And then from then on out, it was just hauling butt across the Iraqi desert. I ended up going down from exhaustion the last day. My heart stopped, and they did CPR on me, and they were able to bring me back. Mm-hmm. But the last day of the ground war, they medevaced me out after that, and I ended up in Landstuhl, Germany. Mm-hmm. But that's about my experience in the combat zone.
Now, when you're taking artillery fire, what do you do with incoming fire?
Hit the ground. Try to make yourself as small as possible. And then try to get out, if you can, try to get out of the area. But in this case, at the time we took this fire, we were taking prisoners. We had Iraqis that had come up out of one of the bunkers, and they were coming towards us, and we were keeping them covered, and then we took the incoming artillery fire. And so the Iraqis started crying. They were trying to make themselves as small as we were, and there was just no place to go. And of course, our artillery began to fire counter battery fire, and so that's a pretty vivid recollection. It was the day after the breaches when we suffered our first casualties from my company. The first man to die was from an IED, and then we lost several other guys to landmines. We didn't lose anybody to direct fire. It was all either due to landmine or IED.
How were you moving across the desert?
I was in a canvas-sided Humvee. We didn't have anything up armored at all, and we were moving against initially against an Iraqi infantry unit, and then the Republican Guard, and the pucker factor was very high in that canvas-sided Humvee. They issued me 2 AT-4 anti-tank weapons, and I asked what was I supposed to do with those. Well, if you run into a tank, you use it against that tank. And I said, if I run into a tank in this thing, I'm going to make myself scarce. But
now, who had the mortars in your mortar platoon?
those were mounted in M113 armored personnel carriers. They were the 4.2 inch mortars.
Now, I'm sorry, go ahead.
At that time, those are the biggest mortars the Army had.
What was your job in the mortar platoon? What did you do?
I was the platoon sergeant's driver.
Okay. Platoon sergeant's driver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so my job was to make sure that we would make sure that everybody had what they needed as far as ammunition, that sort of thing.
So you were driving the Humvee?
I was driving the Humvee.
Okay.
And we were to, when the action started, the platoon leader went with one section. It was the mortar platoon was divided into two 4-gun sections, and the platoon leader went with one section, and the platoon sergeant went with the other section.
Okay. What weapon were you carrying?
I was carrying an M16 A2.
Okay. What was the difference between the A1 and A2?
A2 has a little bit longer barrel. It's different. The ammunition was slightly different. You can fire A1 ammunition out of an A2, but you could not fire A2 ammunition out of an A1. I think it was a hotter load in the A2.
Okay. How far through Iraq did you get?
I don't know. We were out in the middle of the southern desert there.
Did you stop by the burning oil fields?
Yeah. That's the last we got to that point.
Was that in northern Kuwait?
I believe so. I'm not for sure.
What did you think when you saw those burning oil wells?
It looked like a scene out of hell. The sky was in broad daylight. Sky was black. Everything stank. I couldn't believe could be that dirty and still live. It's hard to breathe. I developed asthma after the end of the war. I don't know if it was from that or what. We were all pretty sick. We were having to take what they call PB pills. That was supposed to enhance the effect of the nerve agent antidote if we had to take the nerve agent antidote, and those pills made us sick. We'd get an excruciating headache. Basically, it gave you several symptoms of nerve agent poisoning when you took the pills. And then, like I I said, all of us were pretty sick.
Do you come across any Bedouins?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Do you get to Kuwait City?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So how long you in Kuwait after the war?
I was just there for several days.
Okay. What did you do in Kuwait?
I was in the hospital. I'd been medevaced out.
Okay. Where was the hospital?
I think it was in King Khalid. I went through several aid stations before I finally ended up in King Khalid Military City.
Because of the asthma?
Or it was because of the exhaustion. My heart had stopped.
Okay.
And I had a heart arrhythmia. And so they were backing me out.
Okay.
The first field hospital I was in, they had hooked up an EKG to me, and I was laying there, and they were trying to get a reading on this EKG machine. Well, the EKG machine caught fire, and I'm laying there hooked up to oxygen. So that was exciting, and so then they took me from that hospital to another hospital in an ambulance. They got me to that hospital in a Black Hawk, and they took me from that hospital to another hospital in an ambulance. I remember there was a sandstorm blowing, and they were also the NCO that was in charge of the ambulances that were there, because there were several ambulances that were going to transport me and several other wounded soldiers and some EPWs that were there, some Iraqis that were wounded. And he was having a loud discussion with this doctor over transporting these EPWs along with the American wounded at the same time. And while they were having this loud discussion, they had set my stretcher down and outside. And they told me, keep your eyes shut. Because the sand. Yeah. And when they got me in the back of the ambulance, this female medic was gently washing the sand off my eyes so I could open them. But that was an experience. And I remember then they got me to King Khalid. They were going to medevac me from there to Landstuhl, Germany. And they put us on a C5A transport on stretchers. And there was a young soldier next to me that had been wounded by friendly fire. He'd been struck in the buttocks with a .50 caliber round during combat with the Iraqis, and he was very seriously wounded. And I remember if the aircraft struck any turbulence, he would groan, and I'd reach over and pat him on the arm. Mm-hmm. You know, he was heavily sedated.
I have to ask, how does an EKG machine catch on fire?
I have no idea. I just know it did, and everybody got excited, including me. And yeah.
So what'd you do in Landstuhl?
They checked me out. They did several tests on me, and told me I was fit to report back to duty, and they sent me back stateside.
Okay. To where?
To Fort Riley.
Fort Riley. Okay. Mm-hmm. And how long were you in the military then?
5 years, from 1990 to 1995.
Okay. What did you do in those 5 years?
Just served. Ended up in headquarters company, U.S. Army Garrison, as a training NCO. And finished out my tour there. Was a sergeant promotable, but the cutoff scores didn't drop, and I ended up having to get out. I was forced out because I hadn't made my staff sergeant.
And you got out
in 1995.
What month? Do you recall?
It would have been around October.
October. Mm-hmm. Did you come back to Bartlesville?
Came back to Bartlesville. hired on with Dewey Police Department in December of 1995. And I've been here ever since, 21 years.
So tell me about Dewey. What kind of town is Dewey?
It's a good town, small town USA. It's not exactly Mayberry. Mayberry never existed. We have our share of problems, criminal-wise, but it's a good town to work for. We got good people who live here, and they deserve every bit as professional law enforcement as New York City or any place else. And we may not deal with this, the amount of crime they do as frequently as they do in the larger cities, but we deal with our fair share.
Would you join the Army again?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd like to do a word association.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you some words if you give me your reaction.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is basic training.
Fear.
Jump school.
Fear.
Germany.
Beer.
Saudi Arabia.
Ugly.
Iraq.
Uglier.
Kuwait.
Nicer.
General Schwarzkopf.
Good man.
Colin Powell.
Good man.
George Bush.
Good man.
How do you want to be remembered?
As a man that always did the best he could.
Anything else you want to talk about?
No, so that's about it.
Well, sir, this is an excellent interview.
Well, thank you.
I want to thank you for your service and thank you for the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is December 14th, 2016. My name is Joe Todd. This has been an interview with Tim Stringer in Dewey, Oklahoma. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.